And we're live. Pep Talk UK. Another day, another crazy day with some crazy news. Jay, as ever, joined by J Alby. How are you, mate? And just started off on a scale of 1 to 10. How gutted are you?
Evening, Joe. Yeah, I'm all good. I don't know. This morning I was about maybe a 10, but as the day's
Yeah.
gone on, probably about a 5 now. As we'll probably get into it, I'm probably about a 5 now. So yeah, if you got me this morning or maybe last night, I know you done a stream last night, but I was absolutely fuming. But yeah, I've calmed down a bit now. But yeah, we're getting into it. We're put our teeth into it, sink ourselves into it, and debate what's been going on, I guess.
Yeah, no, cool. If anyone who was on here last night with our live stream as we kind of broke the news, anyone who's still in it, I was absolutely gutted. And anyone who was watching, who usually watches the lives, I was infuriated, Jay. I was absolutely just angry at the whole situation, and just to seeing how this has all unfolded today, it's been mind-boggling. So, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button, Pep Talk UK, and leave your comments. We're going to have a good chat tonight. Get all your opinions in and see what you think about this. But I'm just going to go over the key events of the last 24 hours, just in case anybody's missed it. I'm not sure how, but so late last night, I think it was around 10 o'clock, maybe just before 10 o'clock, it broke that the arbitration case went to Deontay Wilder, and it looked like Fury's got to fight Wilder before September the 15th. And then this morning, Usyk's promoter, who is number one mandatory with the WBO, Alex Krasik, has said he spoke to Eddie Hearn, and even Eddie Hearn told him that the fight with Fury is now in doubt and they're looking at potential possibilities. Then later on that morning, Frank Warren confirmed that it's a worrying and it's a big concern of them, and they've got to look to see how they get around it. Then midday, Bob Arum released a statement saying they've reserved the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas for the 24th of July. And oh my God, I was shocked at that. And then just before 2 o'clock this afternoon, Eddie Hearn's statement, and I've never seen that man look so down. I must admit, Jay, what do you make of it? Or I don't know where you want to start there because there's so much to get through.
Well, it's like a circus. It's crazy. I think I started losing interest in the fight a little bit the last few weeks anyway, because we kept hearing his announcement next week. So I was kind of thinking, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And then hearing the news yesterday, we had Tyson Fury and MTK confirming the fight was on. I thought, here we go, let's get ready. And then obviously hearing the news yesterday, to be honest, I think Bob Arum and Frank Warren kind of knew that this was a possibility. They didn't seem very much surprised today. When you had Frank, he was like, "Oh, we're just trying to sort something out." Hello, Ken.
Sorry, Jay. Just introduce Kenny. Ken, how are you, mate? Another day, another live.
Yeah, I know. It's hold on 2 seconds.
No, I'll carry on then.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah,
Jay.
so
Much better now.
Eddie looked devastated, but Frank and Bob just seemed like Bob knew. I think this was Bob's last chance for a massive payday. He's 90 years old. He probably would have made a wedge out of this fight. I think he just gambled on it, and he knew Wilder was going to have the third fight, or was entitled to the third fight. Frank knew. That's probably why Eddie was putting in all the work, like he kept saying. You know, you didn't really hear much from like Bob or Frank about making the fight. It was Eddie trying to get hold of the site fees or site agreements, trying to make the fight happen. They knew that this was an issue all along. You can tell by what Eddie said today. And it's fair play to Usyk's team. They could have made the Joe Joyce fight ages ago, and they've kept firm. They obviously knew about this. It probably wasn't a secret in the boxing world. Like, they probably knew that this was going to happen. But like I said, I was fuming this morning. I'm not now. And I just want to see Fury fight Wilder and just get it over and done with now. I agree with what Bob said. They're not going to pay him off. Just let's get him done, get him out of the way and move on. And I think Fury will get rid of him. And that'll be the end of him. This is Deontay Wilder's last payday. And that's what's going to happen, I think. So, and I've got no problem. I think Anthony Joshua beats Usyk. So the fight could happen in December, but as of the summer, the fight's dead in the water to me. I don't think that's happening. 100% not going to happen for me.
Okay, Kenny, just bring you in, mate. Just before you joined, just saying about everything that's happened this today, throughout the day, with Usyk's promoter, then Frank Warren's confirmation, then Bob Arum saying about July the 24th in Eddie Hearn's statement. Kenny, obviously we spoke last night, but what do you make of today's bizarre comments and statements throughout the day?
Well, what's happening is that as Jay says, the proof is in the pudding. The doubting Thomas, which is myself, always believed that the elephant in the room is Deontay Wilder. As I said yesterday, I repeat it today. I was never comfortable with the fact that this fight had an impact and I mean a negative impact on the careers of Usyk, especially my man Dillian White and Wilder itself. I just thought, hang on here, you're just railroading everyone else. Like the heavyweight division is strong. It's probably its strongest, where we've got really, really good fighters who've got big fights to make, and they've got to stand around and wait around for you to get the fight on. Now, from a fan point of view, in terms of the interest as well, I respect that. I really respect that. But at the end of the day, it has to be done right properly. It has to have a contract. I never once bought Tyson Fury's mantra that Deontay Wilder missed the cutoff point. There's no such things as cutoff points when it comes to like rematches, especially when the only delays don't come from the fighters. It comes actually from the promoters, all the TV dates that are made available, and that's something that Bo described yesterday. So that's why that was a good point raised by Bo. In terms of like Eddie Hearn, it's one of those things where Eddie Hearn would have known about it, but then again, either he got reassured, he was reassured by Bob Arum or Frank Warren, or they were ignoring him and they just allowed him to carry on regardless and book all the site fees. Now, there is a positive here, and I know people ain't going to see it as much. We've got two great fights to watch in this summer. That's got to be the positive. Prince Khalid, still has a venue that he's building. There's nothing to stop, either Tyson Fury using that venue to fight Deontay Wilder on BT Sport, or Usyk versus Joshua at BT Sport. That there is a venue where it be made, money to be made, and it's the selling point. Anthony Joshua puts bums in seats across the world. Tyson Fury, probably not as marketable as Anthony Joshua, but there is good fights. But ultimately, it's one of those things where the good old days of paying people Stefan's side money in a pandemic, by the way. It's just not financially viable. Why should someone sit in their backside, earning basically earning millions of dollars or pounds, whatever you want to call it? It doesn't ring right with me, and it's a shame. But again, it's about doing your homework.
Yeah, no, of course. And look, a couple of days ago, this could have been a bit of foreshadowing here. Look, we see Malik Scott, who's obviously now working with Deontay Wilder. He posted, "Either way, we win." I just can't believe not more of it was made. I know, Kenny, you've been saying it for a while, but I just feel like throughout the whole boxing world, not enough of this was made, because a lot of people just assumed that he'd been sorted, and that's why I think a lot of people are annoyed. Because I must admit, I am slightly annoyed myself, because I was talking to you last night, Kenny, about how gutted I was. You even said about how distraught I looked last night.
Well, you look distraught, and then Jay. I can imagine Jay, is distraught as well. He's not happy, but I've seen he's going, and I think that's the thing. I was talking about UK tours around across the whole country in Europe, and that's the thing. But once again, it says a lot, mate. And I don't want to speculate because it's not really primarily his fault, but it just, probably answer the question why Eddie Hearn's probably not working with Sky, because that's another big fight he hasn't delivered for them yet. You know what I mean? He did.
Yeah.
He didn't deliver after Joshua versus Klitschko. The next cab of the rank in terms of fights was Joshua versus Wilder, and he just didn't deliver that. And that's the thing. The biggest winners here are BT Sport for me. Easily the biggest winners. And as we speak, Cavani, Man United fan Jay, has just scored a worldie, but you can watch that later.
I know, I've just seen it on the corner of my eye. I'm trying to stop myself celebrating.
We're all watching the football here. We're all cheering ourselves up here by watching the football whilst we're talking about the fight even I wanted to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. And just see here, Learn Guitar Fall says nobody assumed we were told by Bob that it wouldn't be a problem. So Jay, do you blame Bob Aaron for this? Because obviously he's fed it to us that it had been sorted out, and I can see why. But when at the end of the day there was still a contract.
Bob's crazy, isn't he? Bob comes up with all sorts of things. I don't know what Bob's doing nowadays. He comes up with some crazy statements. But no, I love Bob. He comes up with some interesting stuff sometimes. But he knew. He mentioned this at the beginning. I don't know. I think they may have chanced their luck. I think they thought, because look, Bob's 90. He wanted to make the AJ Fury fight. Fury's only got a couple more fights on his contract at top rank. They want the biggest fights as soon as possible. But what makes me think that they always knew about it is their reaction afterwards. They're just like, all right, yeah, we'll just make the Deontay Wilder fight or whatever. And Eddie's like devastated. Eddie's like kind of like, you can see it in him. He's like, don't really know what. And they've probably made him look a bit silly. He's done all the graft with that Prince Khalid, probably saying all this has happened. Then he's had to ring him up and say, look, now this has happened. It's a right circus. But as Kenny said, there's 2 fights to be made. Usyk, Joshua, Fury, Wilder. And to be fair, I'd love to see Fury give Wilder another beatdown after the excuses he made last time. So that's why I calmed down a bit. After I calmed down, I was thinking, actually, after everything Deontay Wilder said, I want to see Fury fight him again and beat him again. So, come on. You got to make the best out of a bad situation. And like Kenny said, 2 great fights could be made. There's going to be other big fights. I'd like to see Joe Joyce first, Filip Hrgovic in the IBF eliminator to keep him ticking. It's another great big fight. Try and strengthen your position. There's some big fights to be made out of this. So it's not all doom and gloom, but we all wanted the big one. I'll be happy if Fury wins, AJ wins, and at Wembley, New Year's Eve, like I said, then that would be the silver lining. That would be the silver lining, or just before Christmas. But look, what Fury and Joshua should have done, or Boxing Day, any day, let's just get it right, any day we'll see that fight. But what they should have done, the teams, as soon as Joshua beat Pulev, they should have got their nuts together and had an agreement done and had a fight arranged for April time. Beginning of May, before this case happened, because what would have happened was they could have had their fight, and then what would have stopped would have been their rematch, but we would have had the first fight, and then one of them would have had to fight Wilder. So, look, they could have got this sorted, but it took so long to get the negotiations going. They could have got their first fight in before any of this happened. So, I think it's going to happen.
I think the issue, the big elephant in the room, is the pandemic. Not so much in the United States. If we're talking about a fight involving Tyson Fury, then it's not really an issue, because we've seen fights in the United States where, we have seen situations, where basically, they've had partial crowds. We saw a massive crowd only a week and a half ago in Dallas for the Canelo fight. So there would have been a crowd, and there would definitely want to be a gate for the Joshua, like the Fury and Wilder fight. So it could have been happening. But then again, I think what's happened, the momentum was so strong for this big fight announcement, because we're talking about it since the new year, that I think they didn't want any situations where one of the fighters got injured or lost. So it was always a case of, well, let's keep them inactive so there's no potential, like, how to say it, minefields for the fight that most of the British public want to watch. And I think what's happened is that boxing relies heavily on fans who like to watch a big fight and who not necessarily are boxing, purists like us three. It's true, you know what I mean?
That's
Definitely.
true,
And I think what hasn't been thought about, I don't know by yourselves or not, but I just think there's been some stuff mentioned about, obviously, if the Fury Joshua fight was to happen, and let's just assume it isn't happening in August for the minute.
You want that, Joe?
Are you all right there, Joe?
He's gone, Ken. He's froze.
Right. You'll see. Right. What
Yeah.
point
So
is...
no, let's just get back into it. So then, Ken, what fights are you looking forward to then? If obviously now this fight ain't going to happen, what one are you looking forward to more? Fury Wilder 3 or Usyk Joshua?
Well, in terms of it, I'm definitely I'm looking forward to Fury Wilder 3 because I think what's happening is that it was a conclusive beatdown. But one thing about it is that there's nothing more hungry. Hey, Joe, you all right?
Yeah, I know. I don't know what happened there, mate. Sorry, carry on, Kenny.
Yeah, but there's nothing more conclusive than, like a rematch and the opportunity which Wilder, deserves to try and get his belts back. And then, as I said before, I was speaking to Bo yesterday. I spoke to Joe yesterday. It's the American angle, isn't it? The biggest selling point is let's get what's ours back. The Americans, it's the heavyweight championship, it's the open golf champion, the best tennis, the number one tennis player, and the 100-meter sprint. The Americans ultimately would think that all of those titles should stay in United States. So that'd be a good selling point for that fight. So that fight will sell. So that's a fight I'll definitely be looking forward to. Another thing as well, as I said before, no matter what you say about Deontay Wilder's fundamentals, the hardest thing in football is scoring a goal. The hardest thing in boxing is knocking your man out, clean out. And Deontay Wilder happens to have done that on 85% of his fights. So that's why you can't rule the guy out from saying that, because he just has to catch him once. He could say that I didn't catch Fury cleanly, and even then, I still put him out. I still put him when he's on the floor. Ultimately, he probably aced it against me in the first fight, but I know I can put him on his ass. You know what I mean? I think
Deontay Wilder's got too many mental demons. I think he'd be confident probably going into it because it's been a long time since they fought. He'd probably think got a new trainer, new skills, new whatever he's been doing. But I just think as soon as Fury puts it on him on the first round, the memories will come back. He'll go back on the back foot, which he can't fight. I've seen his footages. He looks good coming forward. Fair enough. But on the back foot, we've seen no footage of him sparring on the back foot, and that's where his problems lie. So I think first round, Fury will pill it on him. At the end of the first round, you'll see Deontay Wilder going to his corner thinking, here we go again. And I think that was that. And I'll enjoy that, to be honest, because I think Fury's a great fighter. And I didn't respect the comments afterwards. I think everyone's now forgetting, because of all this big commotion, the ludicrous excuses this guy come out with. How he treated Mark Breland. And now look at it, he's got rid of Jay Diaz when he should have got rid of Jay Diaz straight away. So, the guy is gone. He went backwards in how he should have dealt with that situation. He's still not come out and said, look, Fury beat me on that night, but I'm going to come back and get redemption. He's just talking that he's coming to, he's not even mentioning that. He just said he's coming to get blood or whatever. But like I said, I can't see the second fight going any other way. The Usyk Joshua fight's a little bit more interesting because we ain't seen that, but I'm confident AJ will win that one as well. But it'd be a great fight to see. But yeah, the heavyweight division is wide open again, I guess. That's the best way to put it. There's going to be fights made from this. Joe Joyce is going to need a fight, so that's going to be a big fight he's going to be in. You got we had the big fight at the weekend, Manuel Char and Lovejoy. So you got Char now, WBA regular still. He's going to want a big fight. Look, I'm only joking there. Kidding aside, Dillian White needs a big fight. So the heavyweight division now has gone a bit crazy. So we thought we had a bit of stability, didn't we? AJ Fury, Usyk, Joe Joyce, and then maybe after that we'll know how it was going to play out. But yeah, it's gone absolutely bizarre the last 2 days. Nothing surprises me in boxing though, and you'll probably say the same, Ken. And Joe.
The thing about it is, as I said before, the reason why nothing surprises me in boxing is because simple reasons that it always was. I was always of the opinion, if you're a top heavyweight and you need to be fresh and ready for action, and this announcement blip to the fight that everyone wants to see. It's just an example. Be ready because you will be needed. Every fight, top fighter will be needed because they'll be maybe fighting for a world title. There's Usyk in training. He obviously was training for Joyce, but there's no, it's all about the monies. Dillian White should be ready for action as well. In terms of like what the situation is, Tyson Fury could walk away and think, "No, I've had enough of this." Because if anyone's got the mental health situations, it's Tyson as well. So that is something that we need to keep a check on, because at the end of the day, he just he keeps it simple by saying, "You're just a man with gloves. There's nothing special about you. I could beat you. You could beat me. There's nothing special." And I think that's his mantra. But he has got himself in a bit of a pickle. Patience. What he did is that he probably spent too much time watching Anthony Joshua and looking at how organised things were with Eddie Earn in terms of the fight with Pulev in front of like 2,000 indoor fans at Wembley Arena. He thought, right, I want my turn. I'm not waiting around for the networks. I want my turn. And he has to agree on that day, which he didn't have to. And I think that's where the mess has started. But in terms of Deontay Wilder and the excuses he made, to be honest, doesn't surprise me. You have it a lot of times in life. There's a lot of times, Jay or Joe, when you've been in the playground and the biggest bully, and everyone thinks it's the hardest. If he gets ironed out by someone, he's not going to accept defeat. He'll say, "Nah, something's wrong here, mate. There's no way I should lose to that guy. How dare he beat me? How dare he beat me?" And I think that's the psyche of Deontay Wilder. He still can't understand how someone whose power he's never rated, let's face it, someone who's not in shape has managed to smoke him out. He's never, and that's probably what's done him as well. It's arrogance. Don't get me wrong, but that's the way he seems to act. Look, remember George Foreman? Obviously we weren't born during that time. Well, I was only 2, but when he fought Muhammad Ali, he was built up as the baddest man in earth. Hits harder than Mike Tyson, probably more scary, but he lost to a 32-year-old who everyone believed Foreman would knock him out. Not just knock him out, put him in hospital for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. But Kenny, do you think, and Jay, but do you think if Tyson Fury goes and does what he done last February to Wilder once again and knocks him out, do you think that Deontay Wilder will make the same excuses?
He would. It'd be a fool to.
I don't know. I don't know, because I like it when I like the animosity before a fight. We all like the build up. We like the story. We like the press conferences and that. But what I love is when two high athletes fight, and at the end, no matter who wins, you see that respect. You see that you shake the other guy's hand, and you appreciate that other guy's gone through his training camp, gone through his struggles, and you it's disrespecting Tyson Fury at the end of the day as well. The guy put in a lot of effort for that fight, and the same would have been if Tyson Fury lost to Deontay Wilder. I'm sure Tyson Fury would have given the props that he deserved. He would have respected that. Like Kenny said, he's saying is, we're both two men with a pair of gloves. That's all it is. So I just don't like it. It leaves a sour taste in my mouth when someone has an excuse, and the guy had about 5 excuses, which as soon as one got debuffed, he come out with a different excuse. And also with Mark Breland, when you've got a respectable guy, an Olympic gold medalist, someone who won world titles, a great guy, a great trainer who saved you in that fight, he just deserved a lot more respect. And look at David Haye, the amount of criticism he gets about a broken toe that apparently he said, after the Klitschko fight. And I think that what Deontay Wilder come out, 4 or 5 excuses are much worse. And I just don't like that. I like the discipline and respect. That's what people say boxing brings out of people, is the discipline and respect. And I feel Deontay Wilder lost that in there. As a person, I've always liked Deontay Wilder. I've always liked him. I like his promo stuff, and I like to say the controversy that he can bring before a fight. And he has that knockout power. I just like the respect that you should give your opponent at the end of each fight, because you both give it your all. You can both die in the ring. It's massive. And like everyone always sees, like when Tyson fights before his fights, and most fighters, all they want is everyone to go back home to their families. So I just like the mutual respect after a fight. and that's what I didn't like. But I really would like to see the third fight, just to see how Deontay's responded and how Tyson will react after missing out on the AJ fight. So, look, it makes things interesting. It's going to make great viewing for everybody, and it keeps everyone talking. So, it's not all doom and gloom, but it is devastating, especially for British fans. Maybe worldwide fans, they probably won't be as devastated, but for UK, I think it's a bad day for the UK boxing fans.
I think it's a bad day for a lot of boxing fans in general, Jay, because as I said to Kenny last night, for me, the fact that these two boxers were British was just a bonus for me. For me, it was all about having an undisputed heavyweight champion. And I just gutted that we might not get to see it, because Eddie Hearn said this could be the only time we get it for all four belts. So I'm just really hoping. Yeah, I'm really hoping that after the Tyson Fury fight with Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua against what seems like Alexander Usyk, praying that they get through it first of all, because I still believe that Deontay Wilder, if he lands with that big right hand, then it's obviously going to do damage to Tyson Fury. But Tyson Fury needs to keep that game plan like he did in the previous fight. And again, it's heavyweight boxing, so any fight can go. It's just one punch. So that's why I'm more worried about it. I'm just hope that the fight will happen. But it doesn't happen on August the 14th. Do you think that there's a possibility it could get even bigger? Or do you think that people would be like fed up? They invested so much of their time into it throughout the past 5 months that they won't be as interested as they were last time. Kenny?
I think that Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua are probably going to have their most difficult fights in their careers.
Yeah.
This time, because simple reason is that mentally it's going to be Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. You can't think about Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua if you're preparing for Deontay Wilder, the hardest hitting heavyweight of all time. And then you can't prepare for like I said, Usyk, a southpaw, extremely skillful, got deceptive power, and accurate puncher as well. If you're thinking about Tyson Fury, so I look at it this way: it's a situation where a decision has to be made for the end of the week, but as soon as that decision is made, there should be no talk of the prospect. I know Sky will sell it. I know BT will try and sell it. But these two fighters risk losing everything. Because I'll tell you one thing. They're going to be fighting live fighters. One fight. Anthony Joshua is going to fight Usyk. Yes, an undisputed cruiserweight champion who has transferred his skills and power to heavyweight. And is more than capable in any other era of being a heavyweight champion. Deontay Wilder, we know what he's done. Despite what people say about his opponents, he's done the most difficult thing in boxing, which is to knock your opponent out cold. There's many a fighter who's fought what we call a road sweeper, but because they're just trying so hard to knock him out, they look bad because what's happened is that they try to hit too hard, they lose their timing. But this is a geezer who we say hasn't got the fundamentals. Still manages to get his distances, right? Get his distances, and then get that timing to knock a man out. Not just put him down and knock him out. So there has to be some sort of skill. There has to be some sort of fundamentals where you're getting your distances and you're getting your range to able to do it. Yeah, the opponent may be not the greatest, but it's a skill and an art to get your range in order to get that destination out and manage to think, because that means two things. You've got quick feet. Another thing, you've got quick feet, a quick mind, and you're actually quite quick. You may not be like this, boom, 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 like this, and generation like that. And sometimes you do this, which he tends to do. But because he's quick, he's able to get, like I said, get through, the lack of fundamentals that we definitely saw in the two, Fury fights, and probably saw in the fights with Ortiz. And that's why this is a selling. This can sell. You know what I mean?
No, well, like, look, I think both fights obviously will sell because they're two heavyweight title fights. But I've said it for a long time. I think Usyk is a tough fight for Anthony Joshua. Obviously, I'm not going to say, oh yeah, Usyk beats him, because it's for me it's a tough fight. But if one of Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua loses, is the AJ Fury fight dead in the water, Jay?
Yeah, I think it's got the potential of being the fight that never happened. Do you know what I mean? I think it's definitely got that feel about it. Because look, see if Wilder beats Fury and Usyk beats Anthony Joshua, then wow, the heavyweight division is literally, the landscape's changed completely. But I disagree. I haven't really rated Usyk since he's gone to heavyweight. I'll be completely honest with you. I thought his first fight at heavyweight I thought wasn't too great. The fight against Derek Chisora I didn't think was too great either. I spoke to you about it, Joe. I thought Chisora had a really good fight that fight. And at the time where Derek's in his career, I don't think if Usyk was going to be at that level, I think he should have won it more comfortable. I think Anthony Joshua would be too big for him. It probably will be a competitive fight. I think it will. Usyk, like you say, undisputed cruiserweight champion. It'll be a great fight, but I see AJ winning that. What it benefits Usyk and it benefits Wilder, this, doesn't it? Because you think about it, their fights are going to be bigger. There's going to be the spotlight on it. Like Kenny said, everyone's going to be pitting on it. If they win this fight, they're going to be fighting. It's going to be the AJ Fury fight, so it has that extra added pressure to it. Fair play to Usyk. That's all I keep thinking. They could have made the Joyce fight ages ago, and they would have been locked in a contract. So it's great management by Usyk. Great work by his team. It's a fight I would like to see it. I'm not going to say, look, I wouldn't like to see it. I think Usyk, like I say, it could be a very competitive fight, and he does have a chance. It's heavyweight boxing, as we all know. Anything can happen. So, yeah, it's a good fight. I think there is a great possibility that the Fury AJ fight could never happen because we just don't know what's going to happen. Like we just don't know. So, look, I hope it happens, but at the moment, to me, it's 100% not happening. I'm now thinking there's going to be the Usyk fight and the Wilder fight, so my mind's thinking about them and thinking about other heavyweight fights that can happen. I'm devastated, but look, boxing moves on, and we will get an ending, but what the ending will be, we won't know.
Exactly, and it's not the ending a lot of people anticipated, because I anticipated an announcement either yesterday or today or possibly even Wednesday for the fight on the 14th of August in Saudi Arabia. So it's mind-boggling to me. But if Deontay Wilder beats Tyson Fury, obviously they haven't got it in the contract, but do they have a full fight?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Then they're at one apiece in a draw, so surely they'd have to have a full fight.
I don't know. I think a lawyer needs to look at it, but I would probably just fulfill that fight and walk away. I don't think I'll be signing or any new terms for this new fight if I was Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder as well, because let's face it, Tyson Fury hasn't proved trustworthy during this situation, even though he won the fight clearly. In terms of his contractual obligations, he hasn't really met them. So I wouldn't trust him at all. Either way.
Yeah, no. Jay, what do you make of that? Obviously, a full fight potentially. I heard you say no, but it's strange because.
Yeah, I don't think contractually there will be a fourth fight.
No.
I think that this is just a rematch because it's for his WBC title. So I think he gets an automatic rematch for that. I think I'm not completely sure, but I don't even want to think about a fourth fight, Joe. To be honest, to be honest, I didn't want to see a third fight after what Fury beat him. That was enough for me to say that he beat him quite convincingly. I didn't really want to see a third match, but now I do. Interestingly enough, now I do. After the excuses, and it's kind of like, because I'm so frustrated this fight ain't happened, and I kind of like, Wilder is the elephant in the room. I'm kind of like, all right, Fury, let's get back in there and just finally end the story in that chapter. Do you know what I mean? Try and close that book, get rid of him. And like I said earlier, it could have been done it could have been done ages ago. He could have fought Wilder probably January, maybe. I don't know what happened there. Maybe it's been clever by Wilder. I think maybe he's been waiting to see how much both guys were going to earn, and then he can easily assess the situation better if he knows both guys are earning 150 million. Maybe I can get some step aside money. I don't think he will, but look, whatever's happened. I think, to be completely honest, I think that Bob kind of knew this was going. Bob was a lawyer. Am I correct there?
Yeah.
Bob used to be a lawyer or something. Yeah. So for something like this to get past him, it makes me think, come on, like, he kind of knew. I think they were banking on using the COVID to kind of make it non and void. I think that was their bet. They were going to say, look, we couldn't do the fight, COVID reasons, and they thought, yeah, we're going to do this. But obviously, the judge or the court or whatever said, nah, like, Wilder deserves his shot. So look, he was WBC champion. He had 10 defenses, I think it was. So you can say he deserves a rematch. But obviously, where we're all looking forward to the AJ fight, it's a sticking point. It's a sticking point. But yeah, it's something for us all to talk about. It's definitely. I'm looking forward each day to see what breaking news is coming out, because like the last 2 days has been absolutely crazy, and I kind of feel sorry for Taylor Ramirez, because a massive undisputed fight this week, and this has completely overshadowed it, which is a shame. But heavyweight boxing is the biggest in boxing, so yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, we briefly mentioned it last night, just about how big, and how I can't wait for the Taylor Ramirez fight. But I'm sure we'll be talking about it later on in the week. But Kenny, if Bob Arum is truthful in what he said today about he's reserved July the 24th for Vegas in the new big stadium, surely you can't have done that in, what is it, 12 hours? Surely you must have known, do you think? Or do you reckon that's something he has the power to do so quickly?
Well, I think in boxing, you always have to have a plan B, a plan A before that, and you need to have a plan C. And that's something that Eddie's mentioned as well today. And you always have to have that, because simple reasons, fighters get injured, and there's legal situations as well. So Bob Arum has to think about tomorrow, especially where Tyson Fury is concerned. The mantra, and was always coming out of Tyson Fury's camp, is Tyson Fury wants a fight. He wanted to fight, have a couple of fights before he fought Joshua. Tyson Fury's always been that kind of person where he uses he uses his fights as training possibilities. Like I said, a training session. It's still a big fight, but it's one of those things where he said, right, I'm going to practice this so I can use it in other fights. And I think that's exactly where what he was looking to do. Because don't get me wrong, he's still really confident of beating Joshua, but he's still, the noises coming out from Fury's, I need another fight, and I just want to fight. So in that respect, I think that's going to be like a situation that we have to look at. In terms of Bob Arum, you know what? They did try to tell him, didn't they? Let's face it, they did try to tell him. They'll get him to Eddie. They're telling him, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet. Frank Warren, who's not particularly a massive fan of Eddie, was saying nothing's been discussed, nothing's been arranged. And Bob Arum just went, oh, I'm not doing anything. You just go ahead and do that. Or you go ahead and make a fool of yourself. So I mean, you know what I mean? And Eddie must know something's wrong, because every time he spoke to Eddie, if he was on Sky Sports, if he was, speaking to this channel or he's speaking to other channels, don't tell me the date, because I can't tell you the date. Because if I tell you the date and it doesn't come off, you're not going to get angry at me. So it's no good. He said that everything was signed, they've got a site and everything's been agreed. What he didn't tell you is that there was this court case, something he knew about. He knew about the arbitration, and that's why he was holding off, and he didn't make his announcement. Bob Arum knew, and now we know what was really going on and why Eddie couldn't make an announcement. He didn't, but he did, didn't he?
I'll throw this to you. Do you think that Fury could fight Wilder in June and then maybe fight Joshua in October, and that so the Fury fight could be Joshua's next fight, but not Fury's, because AJ he did fight in December. I know 10 months isn't great not to fight in, but he's done. He's fought. He's had I think before the Pulev fight, he had a little while before that since he had a fight before that. So I don't think it'd be too bad. Fury needs to fight, and obviously he needs to fight Wilder. So maybe we could see a situation where they still made the Usyk Joyce fight, and Eddie somehow kind of says and makes an agreement with Bob and that, and says, look, if Tyson can fight Wilder in June, like you said, that date with the stadium, Joe, then you got 3 months after that to then fight Joshua in October. It could possibly be done. Like I say, nothing's impossible. Joshua is a fighter. He probably wants to fight. And like I say, activity is key. But when the sort of money and the risk in that involved, I wouldn't be surprised if there is a situation where Wilder fights Fury in June and then maybe October, November, Joshua's locked in. But with the WBO situation, I do know that is quite... that they do want that mandatory defence to be made. So I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. It could be. Why can't we go back to the 80s, Ken? This wouldn't even be a debate, would it? You'd easily have Wilder in June and then Joshua in September. Back then, there was a world title fight every couple of months. So
I do make you right. And I remember when Joshua first started, he was fighting every month. But I think there's levels now in terms of they're athletes now, boxers.
It's just money. It's just money, Ken. No, I don't believe that. It's money. If they had the money, if it was unlimited money, Joshua would fight every 3 months. No doubt about it. Every fighter would fight every 3 months.
Yeah, but the thing about it is they're all about recovery, aren't they?
But look at Canelo. Canelo had 3 world title fights in 6 months.
Trust me, I hear what you're saying, and it can happen. But I would love to meet Canelo in 10 years' time. I really would love to meet him in 10 years' time and see if all his faculties are there, because it's just not possible to do what he's doing. You know what I mean? And come out the other way, especially when he's where he is getting, where despite the fact he's a world-class fighter, he's still getting caught with a punch in the mouth on a periodical basis. You know what I mean? And that includes sparring. But in terms of what you said, the biggest elephant in the room is now, right, is McLaren. So McCracken.
Yeah.
Right. McCracken. Yeah. We're assuming, despite the protests in Japan about the Olympics, they're going ahead.
Yeah.
So say we talk about James Fury that Joshua waits behind. Well, yes, he could, because his head trainer would be available for any fight after August and maybe in October. So that could be a situation, because if you're fighting the biggest fight of your life, regardless of whether it's Tyson Fury or Usyk, you want your number one trainer to see the camp through. So
it'll probably be in the UK. And the Usyk AJ fight, I think, will be in the UK at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I think it definitely will. Yeah, because I think fans are being.
Yeah, of course there'd be fans, but I don't see any reason why they don't go down the Saudi Arabia route, where they're going to make.
Because Saudi don't want to keep spending all that money on them sort of fights. They done the Ruiz fight to build up for one massive fight, which could have been either Wilder or Fury versus AJ. So I can't see them pitting on an AJ Usyk fight in maybe September time, and then pitting on the Fury fight in December. I can't see them having. They might have the money for it, but.
They want to wait, I think.
Well, the issues we've got to look at as well. The Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is a very attractive one, because we know that Pulev was meant to fight Joshua in was it around April? Was it June 2020? Obviously, the pandemic.
Yeah, I think it might have been June. Yeah, June
2020.
That, yeah.
So obviously, the pandemic hit us with like a truck. But yeah, that is definitely something that we could look at without a doubt. Or if we're talking about Wembley, then the biggest elephant in the room regarding Wembley is it going to be ready after the Euros? Because UEFA.
I don't think Wembley for the Usyk fight. Definitely not. I don't think they're.
You could do, but Wembley is Eddie Hearn's baby. Obviously, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But then again, you're asking yourself a question: would 62,000 boxing fans fill the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and watch Joshua fight Usyk? They might. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Does
think
it
they
sell?
will.
Yeah, I think they would.
Or are they basically not buying music, but just buying Anthony Joshua and buying the prospect of having a fight in Britain, a world heavyweight title fight with proper, genuine crowds? Maybe that's the selling
That's
point.
what I think. I think the fact that we're coming off of the pandemic, I think so many boxing fans will be dying to get out of one of them big nights out, because they are. That's what they are. They're nights out. Them Joshua fights. They're absolutely like brilliant, like singing, dancing. It's a proper show at these big stadium fights for an Anthony Joshua. The ring, everything. So I think. I think that would sell personally, yeah. Especially people know him from the Bellew fight as well. I think people do know him. Go on, Jay. Sorry.
Yeah, no. What I was going to say is, I only want the Wembley for the big fights. I don't want Wembley used all the time, so then it loses that nostalgia for it. We had it for the Klitschko fight. If you have AJ fighting in Wembley every time he fights, it loses that big fight feel. So I know Usyk's a big fight, but I'm happy at Tottenham.
The Povetkin fight.
Yeah, the Povetkin fight. Yeah, that was that at Wembley.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, sorry, I thought it was Cardiff. Sorry, yeah, my mistake. But yeah. No, I'd rather save that. I'd go Tottenham Hotspur for the Usyk fight, and then have the Fury fight at Wembley, because I think that's a UK fight. Wembley's the national stadium for England. Like, yeah, yeah, he did fight Povetkin there, but I want to save the Wembley fight for the Fury fight, if I'm being honest. Just have that big fight feel. But like I said to Joe earlier in the day, and I said, look, I would happily scrap the undercard for the Wilder Fury fight and just have the Fury Joshua fight and just have AJ and Fury fight, even in the field. That's where it's got to now. I'd have him fight in a warehouse. So just have a right old shootout and just have a tear up, because it's got to the point now. I don't care if it's Saudi, Wembley, America, Japan. Just have a fight. Like, let's just see a fight. That's it. Good old gladiator style. Let's just have it done and see who the better man is. Shake each other's hand and say, "Have a good day, sir." And that's what we want to see.
Hey, mate. You know what? They don't fight for free, you know, Jay.
I know they don't fight for free, but they make more money with no site fee.
True.
Do you know what I mean? 100 million each and fight on the field.
I can't argue. I cannot argue with that.
No, we'll quickly get through some comments then. Get them in, guys. Keep them coming. I just picked this one out because I knew it'd please you, Jay. Says, and it's all based around where it leaves other boxers. It says Ruiz won't get Wilder now, so he should fight Dillian White. Ruiz White, we could see that come out
all over that. See, exactly. This is why I calmed down a bit, because I started looking at all the heavyweight fights out there, and I'm like, look, you got Dillian White, Andy Ruiz. You could do, like I said to you earlier, I would like to see Dillian White fight Manuel Charr for the WBA regular, so that he's got a stronger position with the WBA and the WBC. I said this is the time for the other heavyweights to get smart and strengthen your position for the titles. Get in them positions. Dillian White could be WBC mandatory, a WBA regular. So if I was him, go for that. Joe Parker, Filip Hrgović maybe for the IBF Eliminator. There's so many fights out there that could be made. And I think, yeah, great comment there. And yeah, I agree. It will make it interesting. So it's fun times ahead.
Definitely. And DJ M1 says 2-fight deal in Saudi. Fury versus Wilder. Winner fights AJ Usyk. Winner. Can we see that? I know we said about the Saudis may not want to keep on paying out this money, but if they're in a position now where they could potentially be known as the home of heavyweight boxing, Saudi Arabia. But it's just how much is that? Is it a bottomless pile of money, Kenny?
Personally, I do see where Jay's coming from. You can't always put these events on, but the thing about places like Saudi Arabia is that it's kind of virgin territory when it comes to boxing. We always look at, during the Klitschko's reign, we always looked at the German stadiums, because the Klitschko's were under German promotion, so it was always Germany. And they still managed to, fill stadiums and events involving the Klitschko brothers. Then we had the situation with Anthony Joshua at Wembley, and then obviously the mecca for boxing has always been seen as the US of A. But I look at the situation with Saudi Arabia. It depends. It's virgin territory. Then we don't know if there's a bottomless pit, but there may be a bottomless pit because simple reason is that the selling points for Brits like us is the fact that we're not having to get up or stay late till about 4 or 5 in the morning to watch a massive fight. We're half asleep. We're actually not going to be able to comment on it or even enjoy the fight. So that is a selling point. And if there's money involved and there's big personalities in boxing, then maybe that's the situation. Because at the end of the day, it's all about fighters making money, and it seems at this moment of time that the money is outside the UK, and the territories they are looking at is Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, definitely, guys. Pep Talk UK, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, and just here we go. Hello. Sharon says Tyson Fury is the true king of the heavyweight division. Fury is level above all the heavyweight bums, one of a kind, great ever. I think that says, yeah. So you think Tyson Fury may get some criticism for this, or does it solely go to his team, Jay?
It's definitely his team. I just want to go back to what Kenny said. I don't think that the Wilder Fury fight's going to go into Saudi Arabia just on the fact that
I'm not Joshua.
Oh, Joshua. Oh, sorry, Ken. No, Mum said I was going to say that
Wilder's not selling in Saudi Arabia. It's not happening.
No, and I was going to say that they'd not even been dealing with Frank or Bob. It's Eddie who deals with Prince Khalid and that. So, I agree with you, Ken. There, the Joshua fight could be there, but going back to what you just said, then I wouldn't blame Fury. He's got an experienced man in Bob Arum who's been around for so many years, dealt with some great fighters, some of the biggest fights of all time. As we said, he used to be a lawyer, probably had full confidence in him. He's obviously got full confidence in Frank, that's his promoter, and that's their job. Their job's to advise Tyson, to let him know the situation. It's not Tyson's job to go, like, do you know what I mean? He's a fighter, he'll fight anyone. So as soon as Frank goes, look, Tyson, this is the deal, you're going to fight him, he'll say yes or no. So the details, I don't even know if they've been completely honest with Eddie, let alone to be honest with Tyson Fury. Because, look, like I said, just look at the reaction of Frank and Bob and Eddie. It's completely different. They've already had backup plans. They knew that they had to have backup plans. Eddie didn't even have a backup plan till today. He's had to do a plan B and a plan C today. So he had full confidence in what Bob and Frank said. And I believe Tyson Fury yesterday morning would not have put out that the fight was on if he didn't think the fight was going to be on. He's a man of pride, and he's not going to make himself look silly. So I would blame Bob Arum, maybe not Frank as much, because I think Bob's more involved in the negotiations, and I think Frank's more just a UK promotion for Tyson. So I would blame Bob, but it's crazy. The politics in boxing is crazy. I go on it all the time. I love the UFC. You get none of this drama. This fight would have happened a year ago if we're watching UFC. That's what I'm saying. You do not get any of this drama. So, maybe they need a regulator in boxing. Maybe someone who can regulate all over the weight categories, negotiate as a neutral party for both teams. All right, Ken, no worries. Maybe like someone who can go through the deals and maybe make sure that this thing doesn't happen again. But it's the money that's in boxing nowadays. It's so crazy, and I think that prevents so many fighters being active and so many fights being made. Like I said to you, Joe, activity's key. Years ago, there wasn't such big bits of money. And I'm not talking big money just for world titles, British title level. I'm sure the money's gone up in the last 10, 15 years to what it used to be. So it's just fighters need to be more active, but money gets in the way with it. And with these big heavyweights, there's so much money on the line that they're so hard to make, but it's a downfall for the boxing at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I think if there's one positive to take out of it, is that a lot of people were saying about Tyson Fury's inactivity. At least Tyson Fury will be as inactive as Deontay Wilder, because they were both of their last fights were each other last February. So there isn't going to be the whole case of inactivity because they're just going to be as inactive as each other.
Yeah, that's true.
Which, like, I'm just trying to be Mr. Positive here. I'm just thinking out loud. Which, in the long run, if Anthony Joshua has a fight against the likes of Alexander Usyk, that's what we think, or maybe even Dillian White, at least then they've fought around the same time. So in the end, hopefully, praying that could mean we get a better fight.
That's true. And Tyson's the sort of fighter, Joe, as well, that I think I'll go on about activity, but there's some special fighters that I feel that can be inactive. There's only a 1 or 2% that can be inactive and then come back and win the big fights. And I think Tyson Fury is one of them fighters. I believe that he can have 2 or 3 years out the ring, come back and beat someone who's world champion. But also, I think he could. The only difference is he could be a bit more polished if he was more active. But I believe that Tyson Fury is one of few fighters after a long absence can come back and win at the top level. So I would have him saying it isn't so much a disadvantage, but also you would say fighting more regular is positive. So for me, I would favour Tyson still in that factor, but we haven't seen Deontay Wilder have a long layoff after a loss to see what his psyche will be like. So I'm intrigued in that aspect to see if Tyson Fury, one, mentally, like Kenny said earlier, his mental health is he needs to fight this guy. This guy needs to fight. It's key to his mental health, as we all know. So get him out there. And I just, like, now my mind's, like I said earlier, is thinking about all the questions about the Deontay Wilder Fury fight. Will Deontay Wilder be as strong? Will he come back? Will he wear a costume to the ring? Will he have water in between the rounds? What will be happening? Do you know what I mean? All eyes will be on that fight. So it's not a fight where, we don't really want to see it. There'd be some that say, I don't want to see it, but I want to see it for the reaction of the last fight. See how the story continues. So, look, I'm going to watch it. You guys are going to watch it. Everyone watching is going to watch it. And that's the end of the story. You got Sky Sports who putting on box office Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul. To me, Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury 3 is a more pure boxing fight. It's a fight that I'd like to see more than that fight. So you got to put it on levels. And I think it's still a huge fight. And it'd be great if fans can get back for that fight. America's having a lot of full stadiums. It'd be good for boxing. So, look, I'm sure AJ's not here pondering tonight going, what about the Fury fight? He's probably in the gym, training hard, thinking about what's next. I think Tyson Fury would be doing the same wherever he is in Camp Miami or Vegas. And he'd be thinking, what dosser am I going to do next? It'd be Wilder or AJ. They're fighters. We all know it. Fighters will fight anyone. So the problems we're having here is the politics. And this is what everyone gets annoyed about. This is why I would never question a fighter saying, is he scared of him? Will he fight him? Will he won't? Every fighter will fight anyone. Sonny Edwards would fight Anthony Joshua if he had to. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that in the weight difference. They're fighters. Do you know what I mean? Fighters will fight anybody. So Sonny might come back one day and say, look, that guy, I would not fight Anthony Joshua. But what I'm saying, their mentality is no matter how big or how small their opponents could be, they're fighters. So they will fight each other. But when you get people like Bob Arum, Frank Warren and Eddie involved, politics start going. 3 promoters involved. It's crazy. Do you know what I mean? I know other organisations have a couple, but it's just ludicrous. But look, let's be positive, people. Let's look forward to boxing. Boxing's our sport, and there's going to be great fights. It's not the end of boxing. It's just another direction boxing's going in. And look, if it's going to be, it's going to be. Let's hope Fury wins. Let's hope AJ wins. And at the end of the year, like I said, if the fight can happen at Wembley, I think everyone will be happy. But there is that possibility it could be the fight that never happened. So it could go either way.
And let us know what you think in the comments of this, guys. And smash that like button. If it is the fight that never happens, is it the biggest fight that was there on the table that never happened, Kenny?
No. You could talk. Well, I suppose it has, because remember, Riddick Bowe threw his WBC belt with a bin, didn't he?
Good shout, Ken. Good shout.
Yeah.
So really and truly, that's a fight that a lot of fans wanted to see, because it would have been a repeat of the Olympic super heavyweight final in 1988 in Seoul, when Lennox Lewis of Canada beat Riddick Bowe, stopped him, and then Riddick Bowe became undisputed champion, beating Evander Holyfield in a fantastic performance, by the way.
Epic fight.
Excellent performance. And then, Lennox Lewis fought for what he believed was eliminated, beating like I said, Razor Ruddock in 2 rounds. So that was definitely a fight that we would have all liked to have seen, but it didn't happen. And then whilst Riddick Bowe was messing around and Lennox Lewis fought, he loses to Oliver McCall. So it takes him about 3 years to get his title back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is one of those things where, when these big fights don't happen, boxing still carries on, and you're left wondering why. But what it does is that when one door closes in terms of a massive fight, it opens doors for other fighters. There's massive opportunities now. If this fight doesn't happen, for Dillian Whyte, massive opportunity. I beseech him to take it. Usyk, massive opportunity. A massive opportunity even for Joyce and everything. All these fighters now, you've got to realise, right, is that all of these fighters are beatable, and that includes Joshua and Fury, because I don't know any fighter that's unbeatable. Maybe Fury may be the norm, but we're seeing a situation where boxing fans should be very, very excited. Once they cool down, tempers that have been lost, managed to get back to a bit of a level, think more. There's some wicked fights out there. Your wallet, trust me now, if what I think could happen, alternatively, I think your wallets are going to be very empty because you'll be paying a lot of money for pay-per-view.
Yeah, pay-per-view. Hopefully they'll be even more emptier because we'll be able to actually pay for some tickets and go and see some big fights.
Exactly,
and that is what we want.
And that's the beauty of the situation is that but the pandemic is open out, and there is going to be definite big fights. Dillian Whyte is probably the most. Like I said, it's probably. For a person who's not a world champion, he's basically fought world champion level fights for quite a while, isn't he? So that's exciting times for him. And then, Joyce, Dubois, 6th of June. Dubois, even though he lost to Joe Joyce, he's still highly ranked with the WBA.
Yeah, 1,000 fans with that. I think it was confirmed today, 1,000 fans being allowed in for the Daniel Dubois fight. Which is good. Which is a good step. Good step. Yeah.
We're not even talking about Dubois. We're not even talking about him. He lost, and he to Joe Joyce. But someone like myself thought he was letting his hand go, and I thought he might have nicked it, but he got injured, and Joe Joyce did his job. As much as people like massive fans of Joe Joyce, he was. I say this with the greatest confidence, maybe. And I say probably factual. The plan was never for Joe Joyce to beat Dubois. It was always Dubois was going to go up. And now Joyce is, by beating Dubois, has got an opportunity. Hunter only has to ask himself why he didn't fight Hergovich. I'd like to see his interview because I'm sure he's got.
Have you not seen it yet, Ken?
No, I haven't seen it, but I'd love to see his interview. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm sure there was a reason that only known to him. And only a good reason for him to make a decision.
No, and that's what is good because a lot of people have said that, and I've been one of them. But when this fight happens with AJ Fury for the undisputed, like we thought it was going to happen, and like I still pray it happens, like obviously, it's been said that it will have a trickle down effect on the rest of the sport and therefore make the sport that bit better. And I know, Jay, we've spoke about this before. So do you think that it will have a slightly negative impact on the sport that this fight hasn't been made?
The negative aspect to this fight is that obviously it was the undisputed 2 UK fighters for the first time, undisputed heavyweight champions. So on that aspect, then there's going to be negativity. There's going to be negativity in every situation you get in life, not just boxing. There's always a good side and a bad side. So you're going to take what you get. But it depends if you're a half glass full or half glass empty type of guy. Me, like I said, I was a bit angry, a bit devastated, but then I started coming up with the fights that could happen in the heavyweight division. Started getting excited for, like you said, the trickle down effect, how it's going to play out for the rest of the other heavyweights. So, look, there's great fights to be made. Like Kenny said, we're all going to be skint. We're going to be paying out for more box offices, other shows. Thinking about it, I'm kind of upset for maybe the undercard for the Fury Joshua fight. Maybe there was some great opportunities for fighters to be on a great bill like that. We're probably going to have some Queensbury versus Matchroom fights that we all want to see.
Yeah.
So on that aspect, thinking about that, I'm really devastated about the undercard because I think that could have been something, especially when I saw they had 5 million or something to play with the undercard and other expenses. I thought you could get some good tidy fights on there. So yeah, there is going to be good effects and bad effects. I took the bad this morning. This evening, I'm taking the positive. So yeah, I'm going to just keep taking the positives for it. There's great fights out there. You got people like Oscar Rivas. Has he gone down to Bridgerweight? Has he, or is he still fighting that heavyweight? Like you got people like him who's still out there. Otin Wallan, who's a good fighter. There's some the top 10 of the heavyweights. There's some great fights to be made. So the person I probably feel sorry for the most, if I'm being honest, is Joe Joyce. Because he had a perfect opportunity to fight Usyk for the interim WBO title. He would have been in a great position. Now he's in a position of what position is he in? Like Kenny said, after the Dubois fight, Dubois was meant to win that. He's lost. He's got a WBA eliminator. So if he wins his next fight, he's a number one contender. He could be in a better position than Joe Joyce. So if I was Joe Joyce, please go for either the WBA regular title or the IBF title, just for a career move. If you can't fight for the title, please just strengthen your position. Like Dillian White does. He fights the best. He never fights a level below he's fought. He's always maintained that position. So for these heavyweights out there, if you can't get AJ or Fury, just keep taking the big fights. So, because otherwise you're going to go down the pecking order. That same with Joe Parker. From that Chisora fight, he's now got to look upwards and fight maybe a Herkovich or maybe a Dillian White rematch. There's a storyline there. Joseph Parker had him down in the 12th round.
Yeah.
Could it have gone differently if Parker put it on him a bit earlier? White's been knocked out by Povetkin since. Look, there's fights out there that could be made that could be very interesting. So, look, boxing ain't going to end, like Ken said. It's not going to end because of this announcement. Boxing will be here. It's been here for like 200, 250 years. It's going to be here for another 200 years. So, look, it could be devastating. And like we keep saying, it could not ever happen. But it could happen. If both guys win, it could happen. But as yet again, politics is ruining the sport. And that's all I've got to say about that.
I think what Jay says is that the thing is that the common denominator of what you said was the different promoters. We're talking Matcher and Queensbury. It was always going to be an hard sell to get two different promoters, two different 4 different TV networks, 2 in the USA and 2 in England, or the UK, if you want to say it, UK and Ireland. It was always going to be a tough ask. But we got there. We fought. But again, it was always going to. The reason why there's always this situation with Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, and that is the issue, which a lot of maybe boxing fans will probably understand. But in terms of like the casuals as well, they're going to be really upset by it because that is a talking point. It's one of those things. Like the football. A lot of people are probably not interested in football, but they'd be interested in the European Championships or the World Cup because England are playing and because everyone's excited. So they're all going to the pub, but they ain't going to watch, Man United play Fulham or Arsenal play Crystal Palace or one of those games, or West Ham play West Brom. They're not going to be interested because they're not football fans. And I think that's the same thing with boxing fans as well. The selling point about this, this wonderful prospect of Joshua fighting Fury was my UK tour, innit? My UK tour, and I think that's the situation. Is that there's still people still going to want to buy it. But I had a friend of mine who worked for it. He was gutted. He went, Ken, please tell me that this can't be happening. And I knew what he was saying. I said, and he said, come on, man, I was really looking forward to that. You're a boxing man, Ken. I was really up for that. I said, I know, but there's other fights in there for you. But, I could tell by demeanour, there's only one fight he wanted. You know what I mean? And I think
that's the same with a lot of people, Ken. That's the same with a hell of a lot of people.
It's a crossover situation, isn't it?
It's a crossover fight because, like, literally. But my mum texted me last night. Like, she is not a boxing fan one bit, but she was like, "What's going on? Like, what is going on?" Because I think, and that's why, as I said last night, the main problem I had with it. Confirmed, the site being confirmed. It's definitely happening. Because even you could just put all the blame on Eddie Hearn, but you even over the past week or so, Frank Warren and Bob Arum have said it. Tyson Fury said it himself. That morning, yesterday morning?
Yeah.
Yesterday morning, MTK put it on. It's on.
Yeah, but
and that's why I was gutted and a bit angry.
Yeah, the reason why they thought that Deontay Wilder wasn't going to win his case. They thought they generally thought, oh, get lost, money will talk, and then they thought, and even if he doesn't win his case, we'll pay him off. That's what they thought.
Yeah, but that's Bob. Yeah, Bob's told everyone. It's Bob. Out of everyone, it's Bob's fault because Bob would have told Frank, and Frank would have took Bob's word for it. Eddie's taking Bob's word for it because Eddie's dealing with Bob. Like Bob's old school. Like, do you know what I mean? There's going to be he's going to try little crooks and crannies and that. He's going to try. Bob's 19 years old. This deal's a big deal for Bob. It's a massive fight, probably his biggest fight maybe left in his career. The guy's a Hall of Famer. The guy's a legend, and this could have been his go out fight. It was that big for Bob. So maybe Bob just took a chance. Thought maybe, like I said earlier, COVID would be his saviour in this situation, that we can use the COVID as an excuse. Look, none of us know what's in the contract. We don't know whether there was a reason through injury or what. I don't know what the contract is, but Bob was the one telling people, as we saw with Eddie Hearn, Bob was telling him it was all going to be fine. I'd like to see Tyson's thoughts on this situation. Is he upset with Bob and Frank? Is he, because you don't know, this is a big fight for Tyson as well. So I'd like to know his psyche, whether he was told that the fight was definitely not going to happen. It was dead in the water, the Wilder fight. So yeah, I'd like to see whether probably professionally Tyson's going to obviously back maybe Bob and Frank and that, but I wouldn't be very happy if I was Tyson Fury right now, if with Bob anyway, because since the beginning, since last year, Bob said that this is gone. This is the Wilder fight's done. It can't happen, and everyone's gone on that.
You should never take what a promoter says. The end of the day, promoters are not legal people. I mean, how many times did Don King say that there's the chance of Lennox Lewis getting back into the heavyweight scene? Slim and none, and Slim's left town. Didn't happen. But that's the thing with promoters. They're at the end of the day, they're salesmen. Salesmen ain't lawyers.
Yeah.
So salesmen don't sign contracts which are beneficial for them, but how many promoters have been taken to court and lost because they're not lawyers. They think that they can use their threats and power. I'll shut the door and I'll make sure you never fight in this town again and blah blah. They can say that all they like, but Frank Warren, look what he did with Tully Bellew. Why do you think Frank Warren Frank Warren wasn't was saying to Tully Bellew, I'm going to do this to your career. If you don't do this, and you don't fight with me, you leave me early. They went to court. Who won? You know what I mean? Ricky Bells.
And there's one promoter we forgot about here, Ken, as well. Shelley Finkel. Bloody hell, that guy's been working overtime, hasn't he? He's definitely due a paycheck from Deontay Wilder on this.
Yeah,
he's been the quiet promoter out of all this.
He's laughing his head. He's laughing his head off, and that's the whole situation. The only one who seems to not have these sort of problems is that slippery guy from your part of the world, Joe, Eddie Hearn. You know what I mean? all the rest of them have had their arse in court. The McGuigans. The McGuigans, they love Cyclone Promotions. They love a court case, don't they?
Yeah, that's always been an interesting one for me. I must admit the Cyclone with a court case. Yeah, I'd like. Obviously, I feel like Is that for you? Is that a taboo subject, Kenny?
Not,
Like in the boxing industry?
not really, because we've got to remember, Barry McGuigan, was always taking his promoter, Barney Eastwood, to court, and there was a situation when Barry McGuigan won his court case against Barney Eastwood in terms of like the things that Carl Frampton was accused of Barry McGuigan of, in terms of like, fees that he's been owed for, TV sales, ticket sales, that they haven't been coming to him. The same thing that Barry Riggin was accusing Eastwood of 30-something years ago. And then what's happened is that Eastwood sued Barry Riggin for defamation of character because of his interviews and the books he was writing. So it's one of those things is that boxing is full of court cases because lawyers deal with the law, promoters promote, boxers box, sportsmen do sport. They can't. They don't write contracts, and this is why Down to Wilder was always going to win his case. Always going to happen.
And I also feel like the promoters, they say they have the best interests of the fighters, but all the time I don't always believe that. They want fighters like, what can you do for me next? You know what I mean? Like I say, I'll go back to the UFC. They don't really. You all know John Jones, like he's huge in UFC. But Dana White doesn't beg him to fight. At the weekend, Dana White said, a prime example, you either fight in the summer or you don't fight. But like, if you were in boxing, the promoter will be doing anything they can to make that money off their biggest name out there. You need, like, Eddie Hearn, I feel like he's the new generation of promoter. Like, he's my favourite promoter. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know your thoughts, Kenny, in that. But the old school way doesn't work anymore. I'm sorry. Boxing needs to change.
Well,
it isn't the way. Bob Arum is. I don't know if he's corrupt. I wouldn't ever say anyone's corrupt. I don't know people's personal business and that. But what I'm saying is, what they're doing for boxing isn't great. Yeah, you might get the 1 or 2 big fights a year, but when you see in other fighting sports like MMA, they're having the big fights every month. Their fans are buzzing, and their sport that's been around 25 years is eclipsing the world of boxing, which has been around for 250 years. Like, come on, like,
why don't?
Because they pit the big fights on, Ken.
They're big fights, but Dana White has the base of the arena to himself, doesn't he?
You can change the model, Ken. Why have we got 4 world titles? No one wants 4 world titles, not even the fighters. So it's not like a debate where
TV do though. You got to remember one thing is
that TV's old fashioned, Ken. We're in a streaming. We're streaming nowadays.
Same thing with the streaming things. There's always going to be rival. Just as much as you've got rival TV stations, you're going to have rival streaming stations. You've got to remember one thing now. When I was a kid,
I believe if they changed the model to the UFC, mate, it would buzz because the UFC's huge. No one's asking the UFC to change their model to go with boxing. Eddie Hearn's copying the UFC.
Yeah, he's trying to copy the UFC, but the whole situation is you got WBC, WBA. They're all going to have their own interests. They're not. You can't put the genie back in the bottle because that's what's been created.
But fans have lost interest, Ken. That's the point. The fans have lost interest. I guarantee boxing's lost 50% of their fans in the last 20 years. UFC's been around. I fell out of love with boxing 10, 15 years ago, and that's why I got into UFC. Because the UFC were pitting on the fights. The ranking system's proper. We have a rank. Why is there a ranking system in boxing? It means nothing, mate.
Of course
it means nothing.
Of course it does. But
like, it's just pathetic. It's pathetic.
You say that, but the thing is, the boxers can't go back to what they had before. And I think by copying the UFC model, they're going to do it because at the time, boxers, when I was watching it, they weren't making money. They were very much relying on getting a TV date. And you know what was happening? You know, when the fights are on, they weren't shown live. We saw the highlights the next day on Sports Night. So the only people who saw the fight live was say right, Mike Taylor fought Errol Christie in 1985. You know, Coventry versus West Ham, middleweight title fight. Both great fight. Both fighters been put down 5 times between them. the person who lost the fight was Errol Christie. Mark Taylor finally put him out with the third knockdown. That wasn't live. That wasn't live.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? It was only probably in the 1987, 88 that we started getting a semblance of live boxing.
Yeah, but we've just gone stale, Ken. Since then, mate, we did improve, but we've gone stale. Boxing's reached its ceiling at the moment. Until it starts changing the politics and changing how boxing's run, it's reached its ceiling. The UFC's gone through their ceiling and they're going up, mate, because they're changing the game. They're building performance centers. They're going all around the world. They're doing crazy stuff. And Eddie Hearn is taking that blueprint. If he didn't, then why is he doing that? There's a reason, because of the success. Boxing needs to change the way that it's run. I don't know how. I don't know who can do that. But Eddie's on a losing battle.
We got younger promoters. You've got to remember, it's younger promoters. You've got to realise right now is that one of the things that Eddie Hearn has is that he's not much older than the boxers that he represents, and I think that's why he got the gig as head of boxing with Matchroom, because of the fact that he was nearing their age. So basically, Barry didn't have to deal with them. And I think you are right that you talk about Bob Barry, you talk about Frank Warren as well. Is that it's because of the way they were before. In the 1980s, Frank Warren was an Eddie Hearn. In the 1980s, you had people like Terry Lawless and Mickey Duff and Jarvis Estaire. And Frank Warren, what Bob Aaron and Frank Warren are trying to do Eddie Hearn in America, block Eddie Hearn in America, Bob Arum and Al Heyman, that's exactly what they were doing to Frank Warren in this country in the 80s. Jarvis Estaire and, Lawlesses of the world and Mickey Duff. So it comes in roundabouts. And that's the thing. We're getting younger promoters. We've got Calla Sowland as well.
He's fantastic.
And you've got people like, Francis Warren now. So Bob, even the situation with Frank Warren, he knows that he's going to have to let his son do more, because he knows he wants to attract the younger fighters. And I think that's the way. Promoting is a young man's game now.
Frank Smith as well, under Eddie Hearn, he's probably going to lead the line in the future.
There's a new crop. Definitely a new crop.
Is that he? What did he say? We want to start them young. They start when they're in their teens, and we work them up. We only want to work with young people because they think that young people have got ideas and are in touch with the modern market. So
that's why Eddie's the best for me.
Yeah, that's best. But then again, he set the way for Calla. The Wassermans. You even got other promoters, younger promoters are now going to come along. Without Eddie Hearn, you don't get a Sam Jones as a manager, do you? So boxing has a chance if you utilise these younger promoters.
No, it's an interesting debate, guys. And it's getting quite a lot of comments coming in. I'll just quickly read a few. Esselarius says, I agree, I'm a boxing fan, but it is very tough at times, especially when something like this happens. Jok Pushkin disagrees, says UFC is not eclipsing boxing, stop it. And Mr. Vegas says boxing forever is here to stay. It's a legend sport. And literally, it's a fantastic debate. Good,
Joe. I'm not saying that boxing ain't. No one here said boxing's not is gonna go anywhere. What I'm saying is boxing needs to evolve. It needs to continue its growth. It's gone stale. Eddie's made it sexy again, as he always said in the last 10 years. But the guy can only take it to a certain level. All these other promoters, all these organisations are stopping the guy's progress. I believe Eddie is trying. Look, Eddie knows if he makes boxing a little bit better or he can change the game, it lines his pockets a little bit. But his general aspect is he wants to make it better for boxing. And that's what I've always felt with Eddie. Yeah, of course he wants to make a pound note. We all want to make a pound note. But I believe in his heart, he has passion for the sport, like his dad. His dad has passion for the snooker, for the darts. Eddie does want it. With these other promoters, I just feel like, they love boxing, but they're old school. The fighter's like a possession to them. They need that fighter. Like Frank with Dubois. Dubois was Frank Warren's Anthony Joshua. That's what he put all his chips on that guy. That's why after this, you've seen that he's got that number one contender shot straight away if he wins his next fight. Like certain promoters, they favour. Look at the build-up. Frank Warren had both fighters, and he was you could tell he was on Joe Dubois' side instead of Joe Joyce's. So it's obvious with certain promoters.
Eddie did that. Eddie did that in the first fight with George Groves. He was promoting George Groves when he fought Carl Froch in Manchester. So
but they're actually friends, though, aren't they? That's a different level on a personal level. Do you know what I mean? Eddie and Carl's friends.
And I get the fact that they're friends, but you know, a big fight and a world title fight is a business. You know what I mean?
And Eddie was quite young in the game then, so he probably he should have been a bit more neutral. Frank's been around 40 years.
Yeah, I hear you, but you know what's happened. You know, fighters and opponents all will invariably sign with that promoter in order to get these fights in the first place. That's the situation in terms of boxing. The best boxers don't always get the fight for the world titles. Look at poor old Harold Graham, innit? We all knew that he was better than Eubank, Ben, and Watson, but because he was a southpaw and so difficult to hit, no one wanted to fight him. You know what I mean?
No, but that's even worse, Ken. There's 3 or 4 world titles, and people can't even win a world title. You can't even make them fights. Like that's how ludicrous it is. You got more opportunity to win a world title, and you can't even win it or get an opportunity to.
Yeah, aren't we? We're talking the 80s. There wasn't these opportunities to win world titles. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just think that if you had one world title, even the boxers agree. You hear them all the time. You could have someone number 1 ranked in the WBA, but they're number 10 in the IBF. It's just ludicrous, just how it's all run.
Again, it's about you know what's happened. Unfortunately, in all walks of life, it's who you know. It's who you know and which promoter has influence. And then again, it's the TV people as well. Because at the end of the day, you know, boxers are only going to eat 3 meals a day on TV money, not by word of mouth. It's just ticket sales, which is invariably, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, guys, I think that's the whole. We could talk about this for hours, absolutely hours, and I think that's a whole debate that we should definitely do in the future if you're still up to it about just how boxing can improve. Because we've been talking for so long about how brilliant it's going to be for AJ Fury, undisputed. Yes. Well, no, because it doesn't look like it's happening right now. So we're going to finish up tonight. And I'll ask both of you, starting with you, Jay, just final comments and thoughts on the events of the past 24 hours.
Yeah, bizarre, as we said earlier, but look, we all know what's going to happen. The Wilder fight's going to happen. We've all agreed with that. That's going to happen. Ken's always maintained that he was the elephant in the room, and I've always agreed with Kenny on that aspect, that there was that lingering over the fight, and that's correct. Ken was correct on that. So kudos to you, Ken. I think that was great thought process there. I thought you were completely right in that analysis in that situation, and I just think that there's been some errors at a high level with the promoters. Not so much Eddie, but with Bob. Not so much with Frank either. Like I said, Frank was more of the middleman. Eddie was going through Bob and that. So I just feel like it's shown that why our game, the boxing game, is struggling with the politics and the big fights being made. But as we've all discussed, there's some great fights to be made out of this. So let's look forward to the big fights going to happen. And like I say, something crazy could happen where the fight with Wilder's announced in June, and then maybe September, October, AJ might say, look, they might even vacate it. It might not even be for the undisputed. That might be gone now, but the 2 guys might still fight. So look, there's still great things to look forward to. Let's all be positive. Like, tomorrow's a new day. We don't know what's going to happen. So look, let's be positive. It's been crazy, but this is boxing. It's crazy. It's entertainment. It's why we love boxing sometimes, but it's also why we hate it. So look, I'm in good spirits. I'm in high spirits. So yeah, let's see what happens.
Brilliant. Same question to you, Kenny.
Well, what's happened is that for me, is expected, and maybe my age, and maybe I'm an old, is maybe think, you know what? Whenever you say what could go wrong, especially when you're at the jaws of victory, plenty. I've always said plenty can go wrong, and that's one of the reasons why myself, isn't surprised. And I was always one of those sort of greedy people who thought, you know what, there's other opportunities here. Obviously, my favourite fighter, Dillian White, I was more concerned about what he was missing out on. And then I looked at it and said, well, you ain't got it. There's so many, side plots here. Does it have to be this one fight? Because, sometimes when you get a big fight like this, Anthony Joshua versus, how do I say it? Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury, then what will happen is that, what happens after that? It's it, isn't it? You can't get excited about anything else because that's it. That's the Mayor show. We're talking about Anthony Joshua fighting. He was going to fight Pulev in Cardiff, but he actually fought Carlos Takam. We had this emotional experience with Anthony Joshua fighting Klitschko, and then everything else was like an anticlimax. So why don't we just have the excitement? Then we have like the final countdown. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Jay, Kenny, sorry, lost connection there very briefly again.
That's all right,
Jay.
Thank
you for joining.
It's normally me, Joe, who loses connection. It's normally me.
I know. I don't know what's going on tonight. But thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Jay, where can people find you?
Yeah, sure. Check me out. Instagram, JAlby1989, or also here on Pep Talk UK. Everyone have a great evening, and I'll see you all soon.
Same to you, Kenny. Where can people find you, mate?
You can find me. You can find me on KennyKen at KennyKen1972 on Instagram and Twitter. And one thing about boxing, a lot of things can happen within 24 hours, or dare we say, half an hour. I mean, I was doing a football podcast yesterday, and I only got the message that, have you heard about the big announcement? I said, what are you talking about? And I haven't, because when we're doing our football podcast, people would just say, oh, yeah, what do you think of the Wilder Fury fight? I was just laughing my head off. I said, what are they talking about? Then I found out from Pro Breeze what was going on. So it's one of those things where it's, that's why we love boxing. That's why we love it, because, it's a soap opera.
Yeah, it's certainly a soap opera, because 24 hours ago, I did not think by any stretch of the imagination that I'll be sitting here with you talking about this. I thought we'd be talking about the undercard of the fight when it's announced. I thought we'd be talking about all the good stuff in Saudi Arabia, looking ahead to August the 14th. But it just shows what can happen in 24 hours. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. You can find me on Instagram, JoePugh1309. Put some boxing stuff, and make sure you subscribe to Pep Talk UK for plenty more lives all week round. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.
See you soon.